Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the TV6 Digital Desk live stream. My name is Molly Birch, and I'll be taking you through a recap of today's headlines. This stream runs every night starting at 8/7 Central Time. Normally, of course, today we're starting a little bit later with all of the coverage on Donald Trump's assassination attempt today, but I appreciate you finding us here no matter what time we start. You can find us streaming on Facebook or YouTube, whichever platform you'd prefer. You can feel free to comment or ask any questions you have in the chat as you feel like it, and I'll do my best to keep an eye on those comment sections and answer whatever questions you have as they come into the chat. But with all of that business out of the way, let's take a look at our first story for tonight. We're learning new details tonight on a personal injury crash yesterday afternoon at Perkins Park in Big Bay. According to the Marquette County Sheriff's Office, a 14-year-old was taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries after being struck by a car. The department says they were called out to the park around 2:10 p.m. A 16-year-old male from Gwynn was traveling west, leaving Perkins Park in a vehicle. A 14-year-old Big Bay boy was on a bike when he entered the roadway in front of the driver. He was taken to UPHS Marquette for treatment, and the crash is still under investigation at this time. A student-teacher duo recently memorialized an Escanaba soldier who fought on D-Day. Rochester Community Schools teacher Matt Catoni and former student Ian Smith spent the last year researching Avernbro. He was the 20-year-old soldier from Escanaba who died in Normandy, France on D-Day. The student-teacher duo traveled to Normandy last month to deliver a eulogy in the soldier's honor.
To have Ian there with me and to see him at the age that is pretty close to Auburn, our soldier, was just really special. To see the parallels between both of their lives and to think what Auburn gave at such a young age for the country.
Coming up on your TV6 late news at 11:10 Central Time, TV6's Audrey Stetson hears more from the teacher about his experience in France. You can also find more coverage on that on our website, uppermichigansource.com. And developing now, Upper Michigan lawmakers reacting to new legislation aimed at cracking down on online sextortion. TV6's senior reporter Jerry Tudor spoke with legislators and the Marquette County Sheriff to find out more about Jordan D's laws.
New legislation has been introduced by state Democrats called Jordan D's Laws. The package of bills are named in memory of Jordan DeMay, a Marquette Senior High School student who died by suicide after being the victim of sextortion. State Representative Jen Hill introduced part of the legislation focused on educating youth and families about the dangers of sextortion.
My bill is the education piece to help with the state police and schools to educate our young people on what sextortion is and why we need to fight it.
State Senator Ed McBroom says Jordan D's laws include establishing penalties for perpetrators of sextortion and sentencing guidelines for sexual extortion and aggravated sexual extortion.
Unfortunately, when we find the laws didn't address what had happened before in an adequate way. And so updating those laws so that they can be adequate tools for discouraging these kind of crimes from happening, and also giving law enforcement, courts, prosecutors the opportunity to come alongside families and help them through is really important.
Marquette County Sheriff Greg Zybert says his office was first to take on the Jordan DeMay case, and detectives took it as far as they could, including working with the FBI.
We wouldn't gotten as far as we did without the officers knowing what to do and then contacting right resources and following through with it. And the first time that overseas, we actually brought someone back and being held accountable, and they pled guilty and now going to be sentenced.
In April, Samuel and Samson Agoshi pleaded guilty to one count of conspiracy to sexually exploit minors by causing the minors to produce child pornographic images that the defendants then used to blackmail the minors. The charge carries a maximum penalty of 30 years in prison and a mandatory minimum of 15 years in prison. They are scheduled to be sentenced in September.
Thank you, Jerry, for keeping us updated on that very heartbreaking story. The 5th annual Ben Lauren Memorial Livestock Show wrapped up in Chatham today. The 2-day livestock show is named in honor of a beloved Forsyth Township firefighter who died in 2020. 4-H kids from all over Michigan showed off their hogs, lambs, and cattle throughout the weekend. Event volunteers say they also taught kids about Ben Lauren and who he was.
They are practicing showmanship, showing their animals. Hogs, lambs, steers, goats, and then also market class, so they get to have the judge evaluate their animal, tell them things they might be able to change before the fair, and go from there.
Frost says it was a fun experience for people ages 9 to 19 to practice and learn. The Thunder Bay Inn returns to the early years of America for the weekend. Yesterday and today, the early American encampment was out in front of the inn in Big Bay. Around a dozen living historians tented out to teach the public about the past. The encampment portrays historically accurate artifacts, a performance on the Bidawabin drum, and live demos of musket firings. One live historian showed off their replica musket.
It's a copy of a 1750 French fusil, and it's a middle-of-the-road gun, which means someone of means would own it, not just a poor man, but a wealthier man would have a much fancier stock and a little bit fancier plate and everything like that.
The encampment was out until 4 today. And finally tonight on the TV6 Digital Desk live stream, Eagle Harbor celebrated a major part of its history on Saturday. The Eagle Harbor Life-Saving Station Museum had its grand reopening. The Keweenaw County Historical Society hosted the event with support from the Coast Guard and Sheriff's Office. Visitors even got the chance to step on board the Coast Guard's new response boat. The reopening comes after the expansion of the museum's viewing area. KCHS says that that the public now has a chance to experience a piece of the area's history.
It gives the public a chance to get up front and close and view the equipment that we have displayed on site. I hope they learn something about the history of these brave surfmen and keepers that once manned these two stations between Eagle Harbor and Portage here.
To learn more about the station's history and the important roles it played, find this story on UpperMichiganSource.com or the TV6 and Fox UP mobile news app. And that's all the stories we have for you tonight on this Sunday evening. I'll see you again tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern. But first, you can find TV6's Mandy Koskela and Michael Sobek streaming from the TV6 Facebook page every weekday morning at 8:45 Eastern Time. They'll be recapping top headlines from the morning on their show Beyond Your Morning News. Until next time, I'm Molly Birch, and thanks again for joining me live from the TV6 Digital Desk. Have a great rest of your night.